So, my topic, I started out and I went down this journey and it ended up going in a different path than I'd originally thought about. But how many of you think it's right to experiment on animals? I'm not seeing any hands. We got a half a hand, a couple hands.
I don't know.
Alright, so my topic is about mice that can be used to grow human organs. What's the largest human organ? Skin. So mainly at this point, it's in the experimental phases. You can have noses, ears, and just regular old skin grown on a mouse. They have sort of bred a mouse it's really ugly. And I'm kind of waiting on this PowerPoint to show you guys because I don't want you to like chuck up your cider. But it's a really ugly little mouse. It has no hair, but it has a really weak immune system. So it's more easily able to cope with foreign cells. And it's not going to overpower and destroy them, or immune system's not going to kick them out. So they're the prototype for a lot of this newer science. And I don't really know how I feel about this. Is animal experimenting okay? But my big question for this speech is, do the ends justify the means? And what I mean by that is that in 2000, the number of people waiting on organs was 75,000. There was a 75,000 person wait list, and 10 people died every day they were just on the waiting list and just died waiting. Now that might seem like a little scary number, and that's just for America, but in 2012 that number has grown to 113,000, even though all those people are dying every day. And now our numbers have doubled to 19 die every day. So, since the beginning of this class, by the time you get out, 2 people have died because we know how to treat them and do not have the materials to do the job. So, is it okay to grow these materials on animals? Well, I set out to find out, first off, do the mice, are they harmed in any way? Well, my first question was, what's the mouse's average life like? I mean, around my house, they don't live too long. Whenever a cat catches up to them, they're gone. But these mice, I'm going to show you a video later on, they're actually treated pretty well. They're playful, they're happy, they grow up, they're fed, watched around the clock, and as soon as they're done growing their one organ, they are retired. You can't use them anymore, but they're not affected. They're put under like any person would be before the implementation of the organ, and then after it's removed. So they're completely knocked under, and then they go live in Mouse City with all the other little lab mice. And so, do the ends justify the means? The mice aren't hurt, and a few more people have ears. Now, my second question was, does it really matter that much? I mean, we're only making ears here, right? I mean, a lot of the business, like the people to be willing to pay for this are people in bar fights, people who were in a fire and their ear got mangled, but mainly it's from a firm called Affirm. And that is the Armed Forces Institute of Regenerative Medicine. Basically, all of our veterans that we're bringing back over here where they have shrapnel, hit them in the side of the face or something, knock off an ear or nose, something that can be fixed cosmetically that might, make them feel like less of a person in life, can be easily fixed with this method. So, I asked you if you disagree with experimenting on rats, but here's an interesting thing I found out. There is absolutely the mouse. So like if you got a house and it's got vines going everywhere, all you do is you direct them up into your nice little, vines growing up the house. So all you're doing is helping nature produce something that it maybe normally wouldn't. But here's your mouse. And I wanted to wait till the last second because that's ugly. But honestly, it's a hairless, weak immune system mouse, so it's not gonna live long in the wild. You can't do much. They can't do much for themselves. But here is another question: if you do not think that it's okay to grow an organ on a mouse, would it be okay for a person to use themselves to grow their own organs? Now this guy here, he was one of the get this operation done. It's not actually for him, and he's just one of those crazy people that likes weird things. But I thought it was an interesting point. If you were a war veteran that had an ear taken off by shrapnel, would it be immoral to grow your own ear or your own nose inside your own body? You know, so if you don't think that we should be experimenting with rats, at least this can be, more widely accepted. You are your own cure. Okay. So, now we're going to get into some other things. And I thought this speech was going to be just about the mice, but it leads into so many things. The mice is just the tip of the iceberg. And like I said, these operations they're doing with the mice are so cosmetic. You got your ears and your noses, but what can it do to really save lives? Because these people aren't dying, 19 people aren't dying every day because they didn't have an ear. But it does lead into some very interesting branches of science. For instance, there's a boy named Sean McCormick. Sean was born with Poland syndrome. Does anybody know what that is? Okay, well basically from birth, the left side of his rib cage was non-existent, but the right side was. So if you were to, any time during school, have hit him, you would have killed him. Now the right side was fine, the left side had nothing there. So what they do is, with these mice and with Sean, they take the same material that they use in stitches, which, stitches will fall out, and if they have to put it inside of you, it'll just melt away. It's because these stitches are biodegradable. So they make a little frame, and then they take your own cells, that way your immune system doesn't kick it out. They line the frame with it, allow it to grow in a laboratory environment, and then when it's ready, when it's got enough cells on it, they will implant it into your body. And they got to Sean early enough, he was still 12 years old, and they implanted a rib cage about the size of a CD, and it grew with his body. His body accepted it, it was a complete success, and he went on to play baseball, which was his passion, and he could never do it because had he been hit with a fastball, he was a pitcher, so if they'd have batted one back at him, he would have died. But now he can live a full life. And so, that could have saved some, his life, but that's kind of a rare instance. And, the big question, my final point, is can it cure things? Can it help lung patients, heart patients, cancer patients? What is the limits of this science? And really, we don't know yet because so many people are grossed out by it. I mean, the little rat, no one really wants to see that, no one's going to fund that until we had a situation like the war. And they reinstated a firm, and they got big government funding for that, something like $300 million, and that's why it's come so far in the last decade. And so the two Vacanti brothers, they work at the University of Massachusetts, and they predict within the next 10 to 20 years, we'll be able to completely grow a new set of organs for a person. And we will eliminate the need for this 113,000 person list. We can get rid of all that, and it will cure, this is just from the brother, but he says, 75% of the reason why people die in the hospitals, you've got strokes and heart attacks and all these things that can be taken care of if you just had a stock of hearts, lungs, whatever the patient needs, because our medical science, the doctors know how to fix it, but again, we do not have the materials. So, what you're looking at here, this is developed by NASA, and all it is just a gravity suspension bioreactor. And then this one right here was developed by Dr. Gail Naughton. Okay, so that hopefully explained it a little better, how the process works. And so I'm going to leave off just asking, I don't know if it's changed your mind any, if the ends do justify the means. Because, this has been life-changing for some people already. You can imagine the heart valve patient, they don't have to worry about their health anymore, the little boy, and the innumerable amount of veterans that, feel like real men and women again. They can face the world with a normal face, and how many people it could help in the next 10 to 20 years. So I think the ends do justify it.